Welcome to the vibrant world of the brand new So Ionic Botanicals website. Are you ready to take your health to the next level with us? If so, let's dive in and explore our exciting new website together. First, let me introduce you to our premier product, Nessuit Nectar Stingless Bee Honey. With raving reviews and testimonials, which you can watch right here, Nessuit Nectar is a must-try item in our collection. Next, unlock the ancient wisdom of nature with our sacred herbs, a unique collection of rare, powerful herbs sourced from the heart of Honduras and Mexico and designed to elevate your wellness journey. Scroll down to the bottom of this page to find our social media links. Make sure to follow us on all platforms to stay updated on our latest products and special offers. Now, let's head over to the products page. Click on products to unveil hidden treasures like beefy tea, a bitter crafted from over 10 indigenous Honduran herbs. Once you've made your selections, hop over to the cart and finalize your purchase to bring the best of nature into your life. Don't forget to check out our media page. This is where you can subscribe to our Patreon and YouTube for exclusive content on various health topics. Curious about the brains behind So Ionic Botanicals? Head to the About page to meet our founder, KT the Arch Degree, and discover the passion driving our mission. Got questions or just want to say hello? Our contact page is just a click away. Reach out to us with any inquiries and we'll be more than happy to assist you. We are thrilled to have you here with us and we sincerely appreciate your support and business. Thank you for choosing So Ionic Botanicals and we look forward to helping you see the world more clearly.
Hey family, what is going on? We back here today, man. Listen, man, the last 4 shows, I'm gonna take a break after tonight, I think, but I had to conclude it with this gentleman I'm about to bring on. But the last couple of shows, man, to have Red and Blue, then to have Billy Carson the next day, then to have Dr. Phil Valentine, then to have, to close out the week, Dr. Wesley Muhammad. Woo, it feels good. It feels good to be in this position, y'all. It feels good. And with that being said, I want to welcome to the platform once again, student minister, Dr. Wesley Muhammad.
How are you, beloved?
Hey man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I just had a daughter. I'm telling all my guests.
That definitely was a stellar lineup that you've had. I'm humbled to be thrown in that mix.
Oh man, well, you know, when this stuff pops up about UFOs and I told you this last year when I brought you on my channel when we were talking about the whole UFO thing. I'm like, nah, the Nation of Islam got to be in this mix. You can't leave them out this picture. No, not as long as I got a platform. So you know what I'm saying? That's why we got to do what we got to do. Hey, before we get started, it's real interesting. You know, I forgot. I'm looking through. Wesley got this book, y'all, Chariots to the Black Gods. And I'm definitely going to do a book review on this next year. But I forgot about this little character because you got a chapter in here, Marvin the Martian. I forgot about Marvin the Martian. And I'm just like, oh shit, I forgot about him. And it's interesting, red, black, and green. And he got the red, black, and green.
We'll get into later what's the significance of Marvin the Martian, such that I will have him in my book. He's a cartoon character, right? So I want to get into why I opened that chapter on Mars and the beings of Mars. I opened that chapter with a discussion, an introduction on Marvin the Martian. Now, I got to say to your audience, because I know they notice I sound crazy. I sound like I have a frog in my throat. It's because I do, so I apologize out the gate. I have been struggling with a head cold, but I feel better than I sound. I just have not been able to get the frog out of my throat. So forgive your brother for sounding like I have a frog in my throat. I actually do. But if you can hear me, I'm fine. I feel better than I sound.
It's all good, brother. We could definitely make you out, hear what you're saying, and we gonna get it in today. Before we start, Dr. Wesley, how's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan doing? How's the brother doing?
He's well by Allah's grace. The world has not heard from him since Savior's Day 2024.
Right.
But not because he has been ill. The world has not heard from the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan because Allah has quieted this trumpet. So Allah has put a restraint on him. He cannot speak, even though the world is going up in flames right now. And the minister has much to say and that he wants to say about the developments, the global developments. But Allah has not given him leave to speak right now. He told the minister to sit down and be quiet, sit at his right hand and watch Allah make the minister's words come to life on the planet. And that's what's happening.
Another question I got before we get started, just to give this what we're talking about some background and some context. What I'm looking through your books, right? And this is, you sent me, you got this book and you got the book on the Anunnaki, and you are an extremely well-read brother. I mean, you got sources from everywhere that you got in your book. This isn't no, as you would say, ghetto scholarship. This is like a very scholarly work. My question to you would be, if you have researched and studied, maybe I'm thinking about the answer you might say while I'm asking the question. You're so well researched and studied all over the world with different spiritual systems all over the world. What would make a brother like Dr. Wesley Muhammad choose one religion, one spiritual system, when I feel as though if you didn't choose the Nation of Islam, you could dive into the Bhagavad Gita, you could dive into this information, you could dive into esoteric Christianity and the Gnosticism, you could dive into Buddhism, you could dive into all of these different things. That has a piece of the puzzle, Dr. Wesley.
I dived into all of it.
Okay. But what makes you
dived into all of it.
With that being said, why choose the Nation of Islam, my brother?
Very excellent question.
Thank you,
Before I answer, let me say I don't use ghetto scholarship anymore. I don't use that language. The Honorable Farrakhan has raised me and elevated me out of such baby language. So
okay, all right.
Want that to be stated Excellent. For the record.
All right,
brother. Radiohead Rich, you asked a very great question, and the question, the answer to the question defines the entirety of my vocation. I was a atheist. I hated all religion. I was a bitter, arrogant atheist. Now, I'm not going to recite that whole story. I want to answer precisely your very important question. Why, if Brother Wesley, as a trained historian of religion, who has studied the ancient religions of the Black man across the globe, who does recognize scholarship, my expertise, my academic expertise, is literally the Black God. Few people can claim academic, scholarly expertise on the subject of the Black God. That's my expertise. I've written scholarship for 30 years now on the Black God. When I began studying, I said, I'm going to study everything, and wherever my study leads me, that's where I will be. That's what I will accept. So I literally went to every church, went to every sect, religious sect, and I listened with an open mind. I studied all religions. That study led me to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I document what I discovered in this book, The Book of God, an encyclopedia of proof that the Black man is God, which I wrote in 1998. What I document in this book, Brother Rich, and in all of my scholarship is that all of the ancient religions, having studied them academically, all of the religions of the original black man of the planet, they have the same theology. It's articulated in local articulations, local language, local culture, but the theology is the same, whether we're talking about in ancient Kemet, ancient Sumer, ancient Arabia, ancient India, ancient China. The theology at the root of these religious systems is the same. It's the theology of the black God. Now, it is a fact, and my scholarship shows it, that the theology that's common to the whole ancient black world lines up perfectly with the supreme wisdom of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If we study the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you would see that what he taught to the detail is the truth of the theology, what I call the sacred science of the black God, that was the common theology of the ancient black world. That's why I'm in the Nation of Islam, because the theology of the ancient black world is the truth of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I say that as an historian of religion first.
Indeed. Okay. Definitely. I could definitely dig that, my brother. I could definitely dig that and respect that. And with that being said, I want to get started with the topic tonight. As I said earlier, to start the show, I've gotten different perspectives, different takes on what's going on right now with the whole Mars thing. Billy got a certain approach. Dr. Phil Valentine got a certain approach. And I'm looking to hear your perspective, since your perspective in the Nation of Islam perspective is the perspective that y'all were the first ones I heard in the black community talking about this. And I know people gonna say Dr. York and this and that. I'm not taking nothing away from nobody. I'm just saying, me personally, I heard Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam and them talk about,
But Dr. York studied Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Let's keep it real. Dr. York, Malachi York, studied the teachings, and he put it in his books, the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Indeed. So with that being said, everything you hear going on right now with the CIA, you got references in your book. Wesley, talk to me about what you hear and going on right now. How much of it do you think is real? Some people saying it's fake. Some people saying we're wondering why would they even put it out there in the first place. What's your take, my brother, on everything you hear going on in the internet world right now, my brother, concerning Mars and aliens and extraterrestrials?
So I appreciate you having me on. I have been posting, as others have, of late, and the recent postings and conversations have been stimulated by an article that was recently published in the Daily Mail and other sources with a headline to the effect of CIA documents claim giants on Mars built pyramids. Now, let's put this in context. I do think it's significant. I posted about it because I've been writing about it. I wrote about it in my book that was published early February of this year. But I wrote about it in this book. I wrote about Mars in this book, which was published in 1998.
Okay.
What the recent conversation is about is a document that was declassified by the CIA. Now, the document was declassified in 2003. It's not really clear why the Daily Mail has only now published about it. It's not a newly declassified document. The document was declassified in 2003. The document that we're speaking of is this document right here. It's an 8-page document called Mars Exploration, May 22, 1984. Before Brother Rich, I get into this, it's important to unpack the larger context. And that's where people misunderstand, and the controversy, the people who rejected in my comments, they don't understand the full context. And I was privileged to hear your recent discussion with Brother Billy Carson and with Brother Dr. Phil Valentine. And I do think still the context of this document and its disclosures have not been given. And so people can't appreciate this document and its disclosures. So before I unpack this document, if you allow me, I will unpack this document.
What's that, my brother?
So this document, the Mars document, was one of 300 documents that were declassified by the CIA in 2003 and are right now available in the reading room on the CIA's website. But these 300 documents, of which this is one and of which this is one, these 300 documents represent only 1% of the documents generated during a particular program of study by the CIA and the Department of Defense. 1%. That means
just 1%.
99% of the material produced during this program of study is still classified. So again, the Mars document is one of those 300. And this 46-page document is one of those 300. But this document contextualizes this document. So what is this document, Brother Wesley? It's entitled DOD, Department of Defense, Psychoenergetics Program. DOD, Psychoenergetics Program. What is the Psychoenergetics Program of the Department of Defense? I'm going to put this definition on a public record. The Department of Defense's Psychoenergetics Program is the CIA and the DOD taking the global African sacred science of spiritual potency and developing it into a military science. I'm going to say that again. The DOD's Psychoenergetics Program is the CIA and the DOD taking the global African sacred science of spiritual potency and developing it into a military science. What do you mean, Brother Wesley? Well, I'll point us to a third document and then unpack it all. A third document from the CIA reading room among the 300 documents related to this psychoenergetic program. This third document, very important document, is called African Cosmology and Paranormal Activity. African Cosmology and Paranormal Activity. This is one of the documents released by the CIA because
you got to break that down.
African, I shall, inshallah. The DOD studied African cosmology and ontology, which in this document, and we who studied that can attest, African cosmology and ontology deals with the flow and balance of the subtle energies in the universe which bring about and affect all life processes. Brother Rich, you know that African cosmology and ontology understands that everything in existence, animate, inanimate, human, animal, plant, stone, everything has within it a vital force, a cosmic energy, whether it's called into, whether it's called Ashe, whether it's called Chi, whether it's called Zoom Zoom. African ontology posits that everything has this vital force within it. Now, this is what's important as this document unfolds. While all humanity at one time, but today, only select persons have the knowledge and technique to tap into this vital force, manipulate, and use this vital force. When individuals are capable of tapping in and manipulating this vital force, when it's done in Africa, the West calls it witchcraft. When it's done in America, the West calls it paranormal activity. They call it ESP. They call it psychokinesis. They call it astral projection. All of these are real phenomena that spring from the ability to tap into that chi, that Ashe, that vital force, that God in man, that God in everything, that God force in everything. All humanity at one time had the ability to tap in. Fallen humanity doesn't, and so only certain individuals have or know the technique to tap in. Now, what the DOD, and again, this CIA document is very important. The DOD, for 20 years, the DOD and the CIA for 20 years spent $20 million, $1 million a year, developing this sacred science into an operational intelligence gathering methodology and a military weapon. Training operatives in a skilled technique to tap into that vital force that all humans have. Now I'm getting back to, that's a base. It's a very important foundation. What the CIA is dabbling in this is real. It's African sacred science, but it's given one name when Africans do it. It's given a different name under or by the CIA and the Department of Defense. Now, this project, this 20-year research and development project that began in the 70s, 76, it began. This research and development, this R&D program, studied how to develop a scientific technique to tap in. And they focused on, there's two, well, I'm going to read to you. Now I'm going to read to you from this 46-page document, the psychoenergetics program. Listen to what it says. This report presents an integrated and systematic approach for investigating psychoenergetics phenomena within the Department of Defense. Psychoenergetics includes classes of human capabilities, generally referred to as parapsychological or PSI, psi phenomenon. There are two main categories, informational and energetic, that can be further defined as 1, remote viewing or extrasensory perception, ESP, the ability to describe remote geographical areas or to describe concealed data via undefined transmission mechanisms. So the first phenomenon, remote viewing, ESP, the ability of an individual to access information, to view a person, a place, or an event that is remote from that person, remote either in space, geographically remote. It's so far away you can't see it from any normal mechanism, or it is remote in time. It is far away in the past that you cannot see the event with normal mechanisms, or it's not remote, but it's shielded from normal perception. For example, through security protocols, you don't have access to the information, it's shielded. Remote viewing, or ESP, is a human capability to access that information despite it being remote or shielded. That's 1, remote viewing. 2, the second phenomenon that the DoD acknowledges and studied is psychokinesis, which this document defines as the mental ability to influence physical or biological systems without use of known physical mechanisms. So while remote viewing is the ability to view a person, an object, or an event that's remote from me, but I don't perturb it, I don't touch it, I don't do anything to it but view it. Psychokinesis is the ability to actually perturb or handle or affect that remote person, place, or event. Now, continue reading. Investigations of some aspects of psi phenomenon have been sponsored by various U.S. government agencies since 1971. I'm sorry, I said 76. It was 71 when this began.
Okay.
Since 1971, when CIA initiated work on remote viewing. Since then, 7 Department of Defense agencies, most of them from the intelligence community, have been involved at various times. Key findings of this joint project were: A, remote viewing is a real phenomenon and is reproducible. See, it's a science. Science requires reproducibility. Remote viewing is a real phenomenon and is reproducible. Remote viewing data do not appear to be degraded by long distances or by shielding. It doesn't matter how remote the person, object, or event is. Remote viewing, when used properly, can access that information. Says significant foreign psychoenergetics research activities exist in the Soviet Union and in China, which is well funded and has high level government backing. See, this isn't just an American thing. The governments of the world have invested in developing this global African sacred science, developing it into a military science and intelligence methodology. And it concludes my last reading. Consequently, a potential threat to U.S. national security exists from foreign use of remote viewing and possibly from other aspects of psychoenergetics phenomena. I say all of that to say, as a backdrop to our discussion on this document on Mars, psychoenergetics, remote viewing, is real. It's not some cockamamie thing that the CIA cooked up. No, it's a global African sacred science that the Department of Defense spent 20 years and $20 million to intentionally study and develop into a reproducible military science. Now, so if you would bring up that image right there. So the CIA and the Department of Defense trained operatives in this scientific method of remote viewing. And they developed a specific field of remote viewing, coordinate remote viewing using geographic coordinates. In 1980, let's back up. They used the best of these trained operatives. They tested their ability and the extent of their vision, if you will, by having them target faraway planets. Before they targeted Mars, they targeted Jupiter. In a very famous case, the remote viewer was the famous Igno Swan, one of the most efficient remote CIA-trained remote viewers. When Igno Swan was given coordinates and he remote viewed the planet Jupiter, and this was in 1973. Igno Swan infamously viewed that Jupiter had actually a ring around it. Nobody knew Jupiter at that time that Jupiter had a ring around it. Igno Swan remotely viewed that in 1973. Now, how this technique worked the remote viewer draws what they see. And so Igno Swan, in his session, drew a ring around Jupiter, which nobody knew existed. And they figured he mistook Jupiter for Saturn. But he was very specific. And then, lo and behold, in 1979, Voyager 1 got a close look at Jupiter and confirmed Igno Swan's 1973 remote viewing disclosure that there is a faint ring around Jupiter.
Damn.
So the success of the Igno Swan coordinate remote viewing that successfully viewed Jupiter led to the 1983 remote viewing of Mars, or 1984, remote viewing of Mars. Now, the remote viewer in this case was Joseph McMonigle. He is the one remote viewer that was there from the beginning to the end of the program. He's remote viewer number 001. In the CIA documents, they don't have names. They are the remote viewers are identified by their number. He's remote viewer number 001. He was tasked with remote viewing Mars in 1984. Now, it's important. I want people to understand.
Right.
We have the report that was produced, the 8-page report that was produced from his session. But we also have his book. Joseph McMonigle wrote this book, Mind Trek. And it's a very important book that I encourage all interested in this subject to get this book as a necessary supplement for this report.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's not in this report is the sketching that McMonigle did with or during his session, but those sketches are in his book. He saw pyramids on Mars. He saw, and remotely through astral projection, let me back up. See, astral projection is real. It's not Western concoction. It's global African sacred science.
Is that the same thing as remote viewing? Astral projection and remote viewing is the same thing?
They are related, yes.
Okay.
I would not say they're the same thing because I don't know that you have to, in every case, astral project to the target location in order to see it. I don't know that that's the case. It may be, but I don't know it. So right now I'm going to say remote viewing, ESP, and astral projection. But in this case of the targeting of Mars, McMonigle astral projected onto Mars at 1 million BC, ancient Mars. He saw and he drew during the session the pyramids that he saw, which your previous guest mentioned that, but most importantly, and please bring that image back.
Okay.
He saw and he engaged the people of Mars. This is a sketch of the beings that he encountered during this session on Mars. The two drawings, the short one is a normal human being that he drew to show the relation of the people or the beings of Mars. They are tall, but they are slender. And he described them as shadow people. Now, Brother Rich, I have documented that in shadow people is code in this literature, in UAP, UFO literature. Shadow people is code for black people. This is why Neil Armstrong described the beings he saw on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he did go to the moon. Though the public material that we see that was fabricated, but there was a real moon landing. And Neil Armstrong and Apollo 11 astronauts saw these craft. We know them as baby planes. And Neil Armstrong saw beings associated with the craft. Neil Armstrong and those reporting his account described these beings as shadow people. We know for a fact that those shadow people were black-skinned people because Dr. Norman Bertram saw official NASA photographs of Bertram, photographs of that encounter, and he was very clear. The shadow beings were black-skinned, tall beings. So shadow beings as code for black beings. McNeagle, remote viewer, CIA remote viewer, 001, encountered and engaged these in 1984. These people on Mars, these tall, black, skinny people on Mars. Now, so I have to say, back up. This is 1983. Why this is so significant, and this goes back to your initial question, Brother Wesley. With all this you study, why are you in the Nation of Islam? This is a beautiful example of why, having studied it all, I'm in the Nation of Islam. Because what the CIA and the Department of Defense experienced in 1984 validated what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had been saying in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad during this period, when there was no Viking photos, there was no images from Sidonia, there was no face on Mars, there was no remote viewing of Mars, there was none of that. The world was still imagining little green men come from Mars. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s that it was black people on Mars, and he gave a specific description of them. He said they were like us here on Earth, but they were kind of different. He said they were tall and they were skinny, and that's what tall, black, and skinny, but human looking. And that's exactly what the CIA remote viewer saw in 1984. The people of Mars from 1 million years ago, tall, skinny, and black.
Oh man, no, that was amazing. I felt like you had us all glued to the computer screen, man, hanging on to every word you just said right there, man. That's some powerful. That's some powerful stuff right there. And what do you want to get to some of these other images before we continue the conversation? Okay.
Yes. So what I would like you to do, go to. So bring it. So I say this. So I'll close. It's important. again, context and answer some of the questions that I saw in this controversy. People assume that the program ended unsuccessfully, and that's the end of it. That's wrong. What ended in 1995 was not remote viewing. What ended in 1995 was Project Stargate. Project Stargate was the research and development program of this technique. By 1995, they perfected the technique. They closed the R&D program, and they made the technique classified, unavailable to the public. So I have to say this, Brother Rich. It is not the case. And I hear people who say this, who claim that they are remote viewers because they went to some institute who offers training in remote viewing. Know for a fact that what they are doing is not what these people are doing, because this technique was perfected by the Department of Defense. They shut down the program in 1995, and they made the technique classified. So the government uses it as a secret operation. No one in the public is training in this technique. So anyone who comes before you and say they remote viewed Saturn, they remote viewed the Pentagon, they have no credibility unless they can produce, there is an unless, and I'm gonna show you one of the pictures, because this is a government technique now, a highly classified government technique. So if you tell me, Brother Rich, that you are a remote viewer and you remote viewed Mars or Saturn or Jupiter, if this is what you saw, I'm gonna need you to present the chain of custody for your knowledge, for your training. I'm gonna need you to show me that you got training in this technique, not the popularized, diminished, ineffective technique, before I lend any credibility to what you are offering.
But Wesley, and let me ask you this: isn't that like saying you have to be a doctor to heal me because you went to doctor school, you went to medical school? So if you come with that holistic shit, your method isn't valid. I need you to be a doctor to give me medical advice. Just because I didn't go to the Stargate program, there's things that's genetically in us that we're just naturally able to tap into. Some people come to this earth and they just play the piano. No training at all, Wesley, and they play like Beethoven. Facts, at the age of 3. So why would I need to go to the Stargate program to be considered a remote viewer, a good remote viewer at that?
Right. So first, let me disabuse us of the relevance of that initial analogy.
Mm-hmm.
The medical establishment, we all know, is not a healing establishment. So me personally, I do not hold up the medical establishment as the necessary path to healing, because we know the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that he aims to destroy the medical field. It's a field of death, not a field of life. So I am not one who says that if they don't have a medical degree, that they cannot heal. What I'm saying is that I'm going to require you to show me your line of credentials It don't have to be a degree from the University of Chicago. And because it's a degree from the University of Chicago, that doesn't ipso facto mean I'm going to deliver my body to you. Everyone who knows me knows I am not gung-ho or going to any hospital or any doctor's office. I know these are institutions of death. So I don't make that claim. This is particular. We're talking about a particular skill set. Now, it is not the case that the CIA, that's why it's not the case that the CIA and the DOD has a monopoly on this skill. That's why I opened my discussion with establishing that what the CIA and the DOD has done is take the global African sacred science and developed it into a military science. Now, but Brother Rich, I heard you, for example, I think last night, you raised a similar point. You said, why is it that people who eat pork, who smoke, do all of this stuff, but they, in your words, can tap in to the spirituality. See, me, I don't buy it. I need, what's questionable for me is, what's the evidence that these people have genuinely tapped in? Based on what? Because a gift, you can't talk that and then convince me that you tapped in. I need to see that you tapped in. If you are going to convince me that you are a lifetime smoker, you a hog eater, but you tapped into this great spirituality. No, you can't just tell me. You got to show me. Now, I don't require you show me some degree from a Western institution, but you have to show me that you tapped in. And I don't, but most of these people who claim that they tapped in, I see no evidence at all other than the gift of gab that they have tapped in. So I'm not convinced. So I'm not saying that only through government courses can people tap into the inherent gift that all humans have. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is what the government developed from this African sacred science, the specific technique. There's other techniques. The specific technique that the government developed that allowed them to view in 1984 Mars from 1 million years ago, that technique is not available at any of these institutions. It was made classified because it's a government covert tool and weapon. That's what I'm saying.
You want to get to some more slides, or you want to?
Yes. So now there is one, and it's very important. We have it, not that one, the one from the back up. That one right there.
Okay.
So let me get my material in order.
Shout out to everybody in the chat while Dr. Wesley gets this together. We got about 2,200 people in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button. And also, I can't plug this enough. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a review on this next year, a book review, Chariots of the Black God. Make sure y'all check that out. This is on Amazon, Dr. Wesley?
It is, but you can get it directly from my website.
Okay, all right.
drwesley.info.
Okay, yeah. Awesome.
drwesley.info.
Awesome. I didn't read it all the way through, but yeah, it looks very you good. Good, Doc.
Let's give the subtitle, because the subtitle is important to the title. The
The
full book
UFO.
is
Yeah, the UFO reality and the alien hoax.
it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Chariots of the Black Gods,
Mm-hmm.
the UFO reality, and the alien hoax. Now, and that book is available on my website, www.drwesley.info. Now, let's get to this. This one right here. So, in November, this past November, the most recent of the governmental hearings on the UFO UAP phenomenon took place.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've been hearing since 2021, the government all of a sudden have been having these hearings on Capitol Hill, disclosing the truth of UAP or UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent one is of particular significance for our discussion. It took place on November 13, 2024, and it was entitled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomenon Exposing the Truth. What I want to point out here is you see the individuals who participated in these hearings. I'm going to draw our attention to the one in the middle. And you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
The one in the middle is Lou Elizondo. Now, Lou Elizondo is very important because he is the one who kicked off all of this new talk about UFOs. It was his whistleblowing in 2017 that has led to all of this conversation about UFOs, led to all of the congressional hearings on UFOs. Who is Lou Elizondo who kicked off all of this talk? Well, since between 2007 and 2017, Lou Elizondo was the U.S. government's chief UFO hunter. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Chief Lou Elizondo was the director of ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which Elizondo described as the government's UFO hunting program. Now, the program of the government literally hunting UFOs. The reason Lou Elizondo was tapped for that position to lead the government's secret UFO hunting program is because of his expertise in counterterrorism intelligence operations. His expertise was in hunting Muslim terrorists around the world and engaging in intelligence operations targeting so-called Muslim terrorists across the world. They tapped him to head the government's secret UFO hunting program. He hunted UFOs for the government from 2007 to 2017. Something happened in 2017 that forced him to start whistleblowing. I can't get into that tonight because I want to make a different point. but he is the linchpin figure of this whole conversation. Now, when he was at this recent hearing, in his read public statement, he says this: let me be clear. UAP, the new term for UFOs, UAP are real, advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government, are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. The real reason I highlight Lou Elizondo for our discussion is because he made a very important revelation in his new book. Imminent. Look, listen to this. This is the title of his book. Imminent. Inside the Pentagon's hunt for UFOs. Imminent. Inside the Pentagon's hunt for UFOs. He is a UFO hunter. The Pentagon has been hunting the baby planes in the mothership. Now, what he revealed in this book, part of his tools in hunting these so-called UFOs, was remote viewing. He, Lou Elizondo, is a remote viewer. Remote viewing, the science was turned on the mothership and the baby planes, these so-called UFOs. They have been using this technique. The government, the Pentagon, has been using this technique, remote viewing, in an attempt to penetrate the shielding, the security protocols of the mother wheel and the baby planes, so-called UFOs. The government has been trying to penetrate its defenses, access its systems through remote viewing. And Lou Elizondo, the Pentagon's chief UFO hunter, is one of those who hunted so-called UFOs through remote viewing, by his own admission.
Right. Now that's some shit there, man. They trying to remote view on the mother plane.
Yes.
So there's got to be, yeah.
No, ask a question.
And I asked this question in a different way several interviews ago, but there's got to be some type of if they're trying to remote view on the mother plane, there's got to be like a remote view, like some type of block that stops remote viewers from remote viewing certain places. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Has that,
it's a shield.
yeah.
A shield. So that's my next set of images. Now we'll close to the images. So we're talking about mind wars.
Yeah.
There are mind wars going on between God and Satan, between the U.S. government and the powers behind the mother wheel and the baby plane. Mind wars. So go to that slide of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, please. So I end with these two slides. The mind wars. This is, to me, a great illustration of the mind wars taking place. What we just showed or discussed was the mind wars from the side of the U.S. government, the hunters of the UFO. Now I want to illustrate a case of mind wars from the side of the mothership and its baby planes. Look at what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, revealed. He said, there are scientists on the mother plane who know what you are thinking about before the thought materializes. Therefore, it is impossible to try to attack the mother plane. She can attack you, but you cannot attack her. We have a concrete illustration of exactly what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad revealed. Go to the next slide, please. The one with the ship.
Oh man, I think
With the ship.
for some reason, I don't know why it's not up here. Give me a second. Let me see why.
The ship didn't come through. Did I not?
Yeah, must hold up. Let me see something. Yeah. Yeah, for some reason I don't have it here, Dr. Wesley.
Okay. Well, I can tell what happened.
Yeah, talk about it. Let me look for it in the email again. And as you're talking about it, if I find it,
I may have missed it. Okay. November 1976.
no, I think I got it. Hold up. It's the Soviet submarine. That's what you're talking
That
about?
is correct.
Okay, give me 1 second, family, because this is some good stuff here. Give me 1 second, family. This is some good stuff. We don't want to miss this. All right, go ahead, my brother.
That's it.
All right.
So remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us in the early 70s that the scientists on the mother plane know what the enemy is thinking before the thought even materializes. That's why, by this mind power, the scientists on the mother plane can keep the enemy from attacking it. So look what happened in November 1976. The Soviet diesel submarine called Project 641 was navigating through the Straits of Gibraltar. It surfaced in the Mediterranean Sea at around 2 a.m. on this particular night in November 1976. The captain, the watch officer, and the signalman were all on deck. The submarine surfaced. As they were on deck, they noticed a bright silvery sphere, an orb, just above the horizon to their left. Again, this is 1976. The submarine, when it surfaced, the reason the watch officer, the signalman, and the captain were on deck, they were trying to determine the sub's location in the Mediterranean by measuring the position of the stars. That's what those three men were doing on Project 641, the submarine. As they were trying to determine the sub's location by the stars, this silvery orb appears. And from this orb that dropped down, it illuminated on the still waters of the Mediterranean. It illuminated a map of the Mediterranean showing the position of the 641 submarine. Understand what is reported. As these three submarine officers are on the deck in the Mediterranean, trying to figure out their location. That's why they surfaced. This is 1976. They want to know the location of their sub. And so they are trying to figure it out from the position of the stars. While doing so, an orb appears, drops down, and illuminates on the sea a map. The map highlights the sub's location in the Mediterranean. Now, look at what Paul Stonehill and Philip Mantle say of this case, based on what the captain reported of this incident. They say, quote, the impression was that someone aboard the Sphere read the Russia navigator's thoughts. The Sphere flew away and the map disappeared, all to the absolute astonishment of the observers. The scientists within the orb read the thoughts of the captain, the watch officer, and the signalman, knew that they were trying to discern their location in the Mediterranean. The scientists showed them their location via a map illuminated on the dark sea and then disappeared. Mind wars on the highest level. So while the government, through remote viewing, is trying to penetrate our systems mentally, the scientists of the real UAP is able to penetrate the thinking of the military personnel of this world. And this is an illuminating example to me.
See, this is getting good, y'all. All right, Wesley, you took it. This is getting good, family. All right, so Dr. Wesley, so we're here to talk about the drones. We're here to talk about the UAPs. We're here to talk about the UFOs. Let's get a little deep into the orbs, because a lot of people have experience with orbs, Dr. Wesley, but we're not hearing about orbs on the news. We're hearing about some drones. So what can you tell me, whether it was Elijah Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or whoever, your experience, your research, what can you tell me about these orbs, my brother?
Well, we have to start with what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us about the orbs. Now, your audience has to understand and come to grips with the reality that all of this conversation was begun by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In 1930s, the Nation of Islam, when there was no UFO phenomenon, there was no Roswell. There wasn't even a Battle of Los Angeles. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad stood alone in this country, in the world, and detailed and described the very phenomenon that we are so excited about today. That's a fact, family.
That's amazing.
So he told us, he described the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, speaking about the orbs, he called them spheres. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, there is a mother wheel.
Yes.
The main craft, the mother craft, is a huge craft, half mile by half mile square in diameter. It houses 1,500 smaller craft. The mother wheel is oval. It houses, is a human-built planet. It houses, it's an aircraft carrier because it houses, among other things, it carries 1,500 smaller circular planes that are 30 by 15. That's their measurement. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. These circular fighter planes are what the world experiences as UFOs. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad also says this. He says this wheel corresponds in a way with the sphere of spheres called the universe, and the wheel, and the wheels is made also of revolving spheres. So there's this and there's spheres, what is also called orbs. So orbs have been a part of the phenomenon of spheres, along with this, have been a part of this phenomenon from the very beginning. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad already revealed that to us. And everything that we are experiencing is only the validation of the revelation. The world should have never mocked him for the decades that the world has. Now on Capitol Hill, repeatedly, the U.S. government and the world is forced to acknowledge what that little man or little framed man, because he's not little at all, from Sandersville, Georgia, revealed to the world.
Dr. Wesley, why do you think Elon Musk wants to, he wants to get to Mars so bad? He wants to get to Mars so bad.
He has a Jones. He has a Mars Jones.
And if Mars is occupied by these tall, black race of people, does what we call white people, do they have the constitution to survive on Mars? As we know, melanin dominant people could go to certain places in Africa. They can't go unless they got sunscreen. So do they have the constitution to even go to Mars?
Well, we all have the constitution to go, but none of us have the constitution to live on Mars, except we terraform Mars, or we exist in a contraption, because the natural environment of Mars does not allow Elon Musk or Wesley Muhammad to go to Mars and live as a native who would live on Mars. Now, I'm looking for something. I want something, because you asked a good question about Elon Musk, because he absolutely has a Jones for Mars. And his intent to get to Mars, here it is. As I witness the government and his in particular, his obsession to go and reside on Mars, I can't help but think about what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described how the black gods of Earth put the black people on Mars. Mars has gone through geological and climatic changes over its billions and trillions of years of existence. The climate and atmosphere of Mars today is not what it was at one time. Red Mars today was very blue a long time ago. Mars, blue, meaning it was characterized by great water. And that's why a humanoid life form could be put there. The black man of Earth put it there. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this, and this keeps coming up in my mind every time I hear Elon Musk and his obsession with planting white people on Mars. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, quote, "We, the black man and woman, we have life on other planets, but the white man doesn't. Allah would not let Yaqub scatter the devil over the planets. He couldn't live out there on Mars if you put him on Mars. This is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in 1972. Listen to that. He said the white man couldn't live out there on Mars if you put him on Mars, because the gravitation and the atmosphere that upholds Mars will kill one of us Earth people. So as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, Allah will not allow the white man to plant himself on any of these planets. And he specifically says, Allah did not allow white people to get to Mars or live on Mars, and they couldn't live on Mars. It seems almost as if Elon Musk wants to prove Elijah wrong. It's almost as if these words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a thorn in the mental side of Mr. Elon Musk. And he's determined to show that while Allah would not allow the white man to be scattered on these planets, I, Mr. White Man, will take it upon myself to scatter my people on these planets, starting with Mars. That's what I think of when I observe Mr. Elon Musk's obsession with going to Mars. And one caveat I have to say, so the people don't misunderstand. Brother Rich, when I say Mars, I'm not talking about, I guess there's a Mars in the Antarctica. I'm talking.
I was going to ask you that.
I'm talking about the Mars that is 140,500,000 miles from the sun. That's the Mars I'm talking about, not the Mars in Antarctica.
Yeah, I think, it's a popular theory on the internet. Even Dr. Valentine talked about it yesterday, where beyond Antarctica, there's this ice wall, and when you get past the ice wall, that's where all the planets are, and that space isn't real. Am I saying it right, y'all? I think space is just a hologram or something, but the planets the land just keeps going. And we think that the world is as big as it is, but the world is much bigger. And when you go beyond the ice wall, that's when you go to these places that we see up in the sky.
I want to say this to that. I want to use that as an opportunity to say something to my non-religious or power religious folk. See, as I sit here with my suit and bow tie, identifying me with a religion, and many of you dismiss me on the strength of that alone because you don't do religion. You're beyond religion. So I call y'all the power religious folk. But I have to say this with due respect. You are the most religious and even religiously kooky people I've ever experienced. I'm going to let that marinate, then I'm going to get at it. Most of you power religious people who think you have elevated beyond religion, and you spend so much time mocking the irrational beliefs of religious people. You mock the dogma of the Christians. You mock the dogma of the Muslims. You deconstruct, or you attempt to, the religious doctrine that these irrational religious folk foolishly believe in. But what you hold up as an alternative tends to be way more wacky than what the Christians are holding up. See, some of you will condemn the Bible as a source of true knowledge. But then I heard some of you refer to Thundercats as a source of genuine knowledge about what's really going on in the world. Thundercats, the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you will mock Christians for relying on the Bible. What is coming out of the power religious community, which is being passed off as enlightenment, strikes me as wacky as what you mock religious folks for. And I say wacky because everybody's belief, religious or para-religious, I don't care. Everybody's belief is entitled to be submitted to and subjected to critical scrutiny. So, Brother Billy Carson is right to subject Christian doctrine to critical scrutiny. He wasn't good at it. I have to be honest. He's right in principle, but he was poor in methodology. That is true. Islam cannot escape being submitted to critical scrutiny. Everything a Muslim by the name of Wesley Muhammad or any other Muhammad, everything that I say I believe in my religion can be and should be submitted to critical scrutiny. And if what I say doesn't have any supporting evidence, then you can say I believe it on faith. If what I say contradicts all the evidence, then you can say I'm a victim of blind faith. But your power religious dogma, too, must be submitted to critical scrutiny. And when it is done, what the power religious folk kick doesn't come out any better than how Christian dogma comes out, having been subjected to critical scrutiny. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I wanted to say that for the record.
Indeed, you got a rep for the Nation of Islam. I definitely feel you.
But don't dismiss what I said as that. Reflect. You are, see, my religion is defined, is more recognizable because we have uniform, we have texts that delineate what we teach. The power religious, you too, not you, Brother Rich, the generic plural you. You too are religious folk. You have religious doctrine. But it's more amorphous. It's not as defined as Nation of Islam. I am challenging your prerogative as above the religious. I'm saying that everything that the talk you talk, you power religious folk, the talk you talk is not only as religious, but it even descends into a level of wackiness that should be mocked as you mock other religious folk. But I won't mock you because we shouldn't mock. I misspoke. It shouldn't be mocked. But neither should others be mocked. But all of what each of us claim should be submitted to critical scrutiny. And I'm saying that what I represent, Brother Rich, what I represent stands up to critical scrutiny in a way that no other dogma, doctrine, or religion does. And I demonstrate that with scholarship submitted to all of the public to vet and say, Wesley Muhammad, you on some BS. But you got to read the work, submit it to critical examination, and then say that. No one has been able to say that.
Indeed.
But I say that about yours because I examine your works critically and I put the results in reports that I make available to the public.
Indeed. And, as we wind down, I want to ask you one more question, then I'm going to get to, because I know I didn't want to keep you over an hour because of, your voice, but it just got so good in here. We had to stay an hour and a half. So let me, I got one question and then I'm going to let the people ask you about two questions before we get out of here. And I want to, let me put myself on the screen. I want to, all right, like this life thing, man, Wesley, and just hearing, like I said, I love the position I'm in to just interview so many different brothers and sisters, so many different spiritual systems, so many different perspectives. Y'all analyzing and breaking down things from so many different, one brother grew up this part of the world, another brother grew up in that part of the world. One brother had didn't have no parents, another brother had both parents, and there's just so many different conclusions just drawn from that, right? And I find that I remember having a conversation with you in a previous show, and I was asking you about religion, and you had mentioned that the Nation of Islam doesn't believe in reincarnation, right? Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so this is what I want to ask you. All right, so just as a being, and I used the word tapped in yesterday, so you mentioned that, just being tapped in, right? Being intuitive and accessing and just noticing subtle little things that the average person doesn't notice. You never said to yourself, and I want you to symbolically take the bow tie and the suit off and just dress regular. Symbolically take the bow tie and the suit off for now to answer this question. Without what you read in religion, without what you studied, because you're very intellectual, without any intellectual prowess and you're reading these books, did it ever dawn on you, Wesley, if you were never told anything, damn, I might have been here before? Like just the way you maneuver, the way people may not know things and you know things. You may know the answer to shit that you don't know how you notice it. And people, an old brother will come up to you, 70 years old. He'll say, young blood, you an old soul. You've been here before. And you'd be like, damn, maybe that's why I feel like that. Maybe that's why I move like that. Maybe that's why when my friends do shit, I always avoid problems. I'm always able to navigate and maneuver. I'm like truly God in this realm. I just know it. I don't know how to intellectually explain it, but something in me, it just seems like I've been here before. And this is without the books, Wesley. This is without all the fancy shit that we read everywhere. It's just an intuitive knowledge. You never had that feeling, brother? And you never had that feeling?
No, but I believe the phenomenon you described is a very real phenomenon. I just do not believe reincarnation is the explanation for it. I do believe that, as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one who created the black man, that created all of this 76 trillion years ago, he and all the guys after him lives and is transmitted in the very DNA of all of their descendants. We got the wisdom of the entire history of the world in our genetic coding.
I agree.
Just as ESP, astral projection, these paranormal phenomena. Today, most of fallen humanity can't tap into it. Certain ones, intuitively, they're born in certain circumstances that they have more access than others. That's a consequence of this fallen world. But every human being has that potential. And so every human being has the genetic coding of God of 76 trillion years. Every human being has the full Akashic record, if you will, within our genetic coding. So if by happenstance individuals born in certain circumstances can access that more than others, they don't know how, why, but it happens. It's a real phenomenon. I don't, that's how I understand it. I don't understand it that person is the personality reborn.
And this, you know, this is a real good conversation. This is why I say I'm glad that I could talk to people from different perspectives. I think this is what I think. This is good. Listen to this, Wesley. Hold on. Listen, you ready, man? You ready? Listen to this. I think.
Give it to me.
I think you are, and this is coming from like, I guess you would say like I'm a metaphysical perspective, right? So I think that us having this conversation, great conversation, I think that you, if I could use an analogy, are identifying yourself, I wish I had, as the television set, right? Let's say we got a TV set, right? I think you are identifying yourself as a TV set, which we will call Wesley Muhammad. Now, the programs that are played on that TV set, that could be the genetic memory that you're talking about. That could be the 76 trillion years of information. I'm identifying myself as the information, not the TV set, because once this TV set is gone, I feel as though I could get another TV set, and God keeps coming back. I'm identifying myself as God, not the avatar. So the avatar is the TV set that plays God. I'm television, baby. Right. I'm television. I'm quantum TV, baby. You talking to God. But I've been here before 76 trillion years ago, and I'm here to talk to you right now, Dr. Wesley, in this beautiful quantum TV set. Go ahead.
Beautiful. So let me say, no, I agree with your analogy. I just don't agree that I am identifying as a TV set. The TV set is my physical frame, but we are very clear. This physical frame is only the vehicle of the real me. This is where, and I'm so glad you use that beautiful analogy, so we can come closer to each other. So there are three components. And I believe, based on my study, you and me, both of us are gods.
Okay.
I'm talking to a God and you talking to a God. We have a tripartite ontology, three aspects of ourselves. Spirit, that's the essence. That's the energy. Body, frame, that's a TV set. The link, the spirit is 76 trillion years old. The spirit, the energy is eternal. The body also is eternal in the sense that it comes from, or is old, it comes from the earth. And will return to the earth. But there's a third part that links the spirit and the body. You, even though the essence of you is the spirit, the vital force, your chi.
Right.
That's a lie in you. But that third part is Brother Rich.
Mm-hmm.
There's a third part, your human personality.
Mm-hmm.
The components, the things that makes Brother Rich different from Brother Wesley, that makes Brother Wesley different from Brother Rich. See, you and me in our spirit, we're the same. We're Allah.
Okay. Right.
But where you and me are distinct is that third element. Now, at death, see, with spirit and matter, a body, the law of physics tell us that neither energy nor matter is created or destroyed. So both are eternal, but they transform. But what does perish at death is that third element. The personality of Brother Rich, the individual personality of Brother Wesley, that dies. That doesn't come back. But and that energy will find another conveyor. It will go through another TV that don't look like this.
Indeed.
You understand?
Yeah. Totally get it. Totally get it.
That's not real.
What would you call that? What word would you use to describe that? That energy returning. Is there a phrase you would use in particular, Dr. Wesley?
A transmission of the Spirit of God.
Transmission of the Spirit of God.
It's eternal.
Yes.
It transmits from vehicle to vehicle
to vehicle.
And that will never stop. And in our essential self is where Wesley Muhammad has eternity, immortality. As Allah, I am not immortal as Wesley Muhammad. I am immortal as Allah. You are not immortal as Brother Rich, but you are immortal as Allah. We are the we that the Quran uses. When Allah speaks in the Quran, Allah says, we did this. That's 76 trillion years of we. You and me to be in that we.
You said that 76 trillion years of we. I like that. That's 76 trillion years of we. All right, family. This is a good conversation. We still got 2,500 people in the chat. I don't want to keep my brother much longer because we're about to hit the 2-hour mark. And my brother's voice, your voice actually sounds like it's getting better as the night's going on, brother. You get stronger.
That's not accidental. These conversations are life-giving.
Right.
Positive conversation, they're life-giving, they're energy-giving. So this is what I needed. I needed to be next to you, Brother Rich, and receiving your energy.
All right, let's go. Let's get to
your mind energy.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna get that book, the mind. Could you show that Mind Trek? Could you show that one more time? Because I want to get that book from the remote viewing guy. Yeah, Mind Trek.
Remote viewer number 001.
Yeah.
Here is where he publishes the pyramids that he viewed, the images, and the beings that he viewed.
How did he draw the beings? They was just like tall, skinny beings? The being?
That picture.
Oh, the picture. The other one. That's him.
That's from the book.
Right. Okay. Got you. Damn, I gotta get that.
That's what he saw, and he drew what he saw.
Does he give any game up on remote viewing? Does he give up some game on that? On the science of it in that book?
Yeah, a lot, but not that I can't, from this book, become a successful
right.
Because, of course, just like Lou Elizondo, who still has his security clearance, so they're only going to go so far.
Right. Hey,
All of
what's
what they do is limit hangouts.
real quick, because I know you're so well read. Want to ask you real quick. Have you ever heard of Jose Silva and the Silva method? You ever heard of that or gotten it? Okay, because yeah, I think he dealt with remote viewing too. Okay, I just want to know if you know about that. All right, let's get.
And of course, I'm willing to examine his system. I don't know him. If he makes particular claims, I'm willing to check him out.
Yeah, I heard about him years ago. I never got deep into it, but I heard about him years ago. But let's get to a couple of questions, Dr. Wesley. Somebody says, so is an orb like a way of the spiritual world communicating with a person?
Well, it can be said that. Now, when I say orb, I'm talking about craft associated with the mother will, as revealed to the world by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. These are actual craft. People, humans, but divine humans are flying these craft. They're flying the disc, they're flying the orbs, they're flying the main craft, the mother wheel. So we can spiritualize all of it, and they all have a spiritual corresponding significance. But let's understand that we're talking about real physical craft. So is an orb the physical craft, a way of the spiritual world communicating with a person? Yeah, because these craft emerge from the spiritual world, not the spooky world, the spiritual world, the world of Allah, God, from which these craft emerge. That is the spiritual world. And so, excuse me, I got through it all without sneezing. I guess
it's all good, my brother. So take your time, my brother. Take your time. It's all good.
Oh, good.
Take your time.
Not coming. So, Brother Caleb, when the mothership, the baby planes, the orbs, when they appear, they are communicating with the world. Sometimes they're communicating with the world through an individual. So you have close encounters, individuals having encounters with these craft. So it can be said that these craft, or the beings on these craft, are communicating something with these people.
Okay, let's get to this next question, Dr. Wesley. Marcus wants to know, Brother Rich, ask Minister Wesley Muhammad, in his opinion, what is the meaning of life and what is the mission we are here to learn?
Yeah. So I would answer that. The meaning of life for the Black man and woman here in America is to evolve from niggas to gods.
Okay.
That is why God came. You, Brother Marcus, me, Brother Wesley, you, Brother Rich, all of us have a very specific rendezvous with destiny. We have a very specific call of duty. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that his job was to make gods out of the Black man and woman of America, to be the rulers of the entire world. That's why, that's your mandate, Brother Marcus. Life with respect. life for the black man and woman in America has no real relevance outside that mandate. We should not be living our life in a way that is not consistent with this mandate of you, Brother Marcus, becoming a God either in your time or through your progeny, your line evolving into the godhood that will be the new Anunnaki, the new rulers of this cosmos. That's what life means for the black man and woman in America. Any other life engagement is a distraction, in my opinion.
Okay. Last question. I can't keep Wesley much longer, family. I got one more question for the brother. And I want to go back. You don't have to go in too deep, my brother, but to because we got a little off topic because we got such a good conversation just about spirituality and religion, and it was definitely necessary. And I hope I learned a lot from it. I hope everybody was able to learn from our conversation. I need you to touch on the whole, why did Hollywood decide, we started out talking about Mars, why did it decide to use a black figure dressed in Roman attire to represent a Mars
green
and green?
Not a black figure,
a black
dressed
figure
in Roman attire painted green. So Marvin the Martian went public after a particular incident occurred. We all know the incident is the Roswell incident, July 1947. But the most important aspect of the Roswell incident is absolutely not a part of the Roswell narrative. Along with the craft, the so-called UFO that was recovered, bodies were recovered, but they were bodies of black Asiatic men. I document and demonstrate that in this book. And so the government came face to face with the black Asiatics, black men who are behind this craft. I have said, and I have documented, the disinformation campaign began immediately. The black beings were presented in the public as reptilians. This is the birth, the whole reptilian narrative.
This is the birth of it.
The whole reptilian narrative goes back to this particular disinformation campaign of the U.S. government after those black bodies were found in the desert in New Mexico, in Roswell. The government, Marvin the Martian, and as you see, the authors of Marvin, Warner Brothers, who debuted Marvin the Martian in 1948, they worked with the CIA and the military, produced animations for the war effort. And Marvin the Martian was one of those animations produced for the government. Immediately after those black bodies were found, the initial, today, the Roswell bodies are described as grays, EBEs. That's later misinformation. The initial misinformation campaign universally painted them as green reptilians. This is how the black pilots of the craft are villainized. Understand that in this fake, fabricated alien narrative, you got the three main characters: reptilians, grays, and Nordics. And the para-religious people believe in reptilians. They don't believe in Jesus, Muhammad, but they believe in grays, they believe in reptilians, and they believe in Nordics. And y'all want to mock us. In this narrative, these are not arbitrary characters. The reptilians are the villains in this narrative. The reptilians are the black pilots disguised and villainized. Of course, the heroes, the saviors of this narrative are the Nordics, the straight up white people from Pleiades. The grays are more, what's the word I'm looking for now? They're more ambiguous. They're mischievous, but they're not evil. But the grays are white people from the future coming back. And so when you examine those who write on the grays, and the very image of the gray derives from H.G. Wells in his writing on white people of the future. So the grays are hidden white people, the Nordics are blatant white people, and the reptilians are hidden, villainized black people, the real pilots of these craft. The whole reptilian figure began after those black bodies were found with that craft in Roswell. And the first iteration of that myth was Martin the Martian, because they assumed some of the popular narrative was, oh, this craft must be from Mars. So it's not arbitrary that Marvin the Martian, he's actually black, but he's draped in green. See, that's subtle hinting.
Right. Definitely. I'm glad you brought that up. Once again, family, this is from the book Cherry to the Black Gods, the UFO Reality and the Alien Hoax. My brother, I'm not going to keep you no longer. I want to thank you. We did 2 hours, my brother. I just, I just had to keep going, my brother. So I'm sorry for keeping you longer.
No. Don't be sorry. I thank you, because your mental energy fed me. So I was able to go 2 hours. Indeed. I sound better at the end than I did in the beginning.
Hey, man, tell the people your website one more time so they could get the book. Any other information you want to tell them before we got in?
Yes. So my books can be accessed at www.drwesley.info. INFO. drwesley.info. You can also reach me at wesleymuhammad.com. wesleymuhammad.com. There's no T in Wesley. That's other Wesley.
Oh, man, that's other Wesley's, huh?
No T in Wesley. WESLEY.
Indeed. Hey, brother, listen, keep up the great work, my brother. We coming from all different walks of life. I appreciate sharing knowledge with you, exchanging energy with you, my brother, and I will talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Love you.
Peace.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Love you, brother. Peace, my brother.
Peace.
I will see y'all either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, family. All right? Everybody have a good